Every life leaves a mark. Human Signal. Real stories, real strength, real people. Subscribe.
On Christmas Eve, 1945, a mother put 9 children to bed in a small wooden house in West Virginia. By morning, 5 of them were gone. The official story says they died in a house fire that night. But their mother never believed it. Not that night, not the next year, not for the rest of her life. For the next 4 decades, she searched for them, convinced, until her last breath, that they were still alive somewhere. This is the story of why. George and Jenny Sodder had built the kind of life people spend their whole lives working toward. George had come to America from Italy as a teenager, alone, barely speaking English. By the time he was in his 40s, he had a wife, 10 children, and a house he built with his own hands outside the small town of Fayetteville, West Virginia. It wasn't fancy. 2 stories, wood frame, a coal furnace in the basement. But it was theirs. One thing about George, he didn't keep quiet about his opinions. He was proud to be American, and he wasn't shy about criticizing the politics of the country he'd left behind. In a small town where a lot of families still had ties back to Italy, that made him a few enemies. Months before that Christmas, a man warned him outright. His house would go up in smoke, and his children would be destroyed. George didn't take it seriously. People say things in anger. Christmas Eve was loud and warm, the way houses are on Christmas Eve. 9 of the children were home that night. Jenny put the younger ones to bed around 10 and stayed up a little longer, tidying up the way mothers do. Just after midnight, the phone rang. A woman's voice, one Jenny didn't recognize, asked for someone she'd never heard of, laughed strangely, and hung up. Jenny went back to bed, but something felt off. The front door, which she'd locked herself, was open. The curtains had been moved. Small things, the kind of things you notice and then talk yourself out of. Around 1 a.m., she heard something heavy hit the roof and roll off. She didn't get up. The next thing she knew, she woke up to the smell of smoke. The fire was already bad by the time anyone realized. George got the children who were near him out of the house, but the stairway to the upper rooms was already gone. He ran for the ladder he always kept against the side of the house for exactly this kind of emergency. It wasn't there. He found it later, oddly, far from where it should have been, almost like someone had moved it on purpose. He tried to get one of his trucks close enough to reach a window. Both trucks, which had run fine the day before, wouldn't start. He ran to a neighbor's house to call for help. The line was dead, not just disconnected, cut. By the time anyone with real equipment arrived, there was nothing left but a smoking foundation. 5 of the Sodder children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were presumed dead. A local official ruled it an accident. Faulty wiring, the report said. Case closed. Except for George and Jenny, it never was. Here's where most stories like this end. A tragedy, a ruling, a family left to grieve. But the Sodders started noticing things almost right away that didn't add up. George had rewired the house himself not long before, and he was confident it was sound. He also remembered that a few weeks earlier, a man had come by asking about work and had spent an unusually long time standing near the fuse box. Then there was the bigger problem. If 5 children had died in that fire, there should have been remains. Even a severe house fire doesn't usually destroy bones completely. But when the ashes cooled, the family found nothing. No bones. No teeth. Nothing belonging to the children at all. A neighbor later said she'd seen a car driving away from the house around the time the fire started. Slowly, like whoever was inside was watching it burn. George went through the wreckage himself with a rake, looking for anything. The one thing he found that didn't make sense was a hard rubber object, the kind used in military equipment, that had no reason to be in his house. Most parents, faced with an official ruling and a town ready to move on, might have grieved and rebuilt. George and Jenny did something else. They became convinced their children hadn't died in that fire at all, that they'd been taken before it even started. Jenny stopped decorating for Christmas for years. The family put up a billboard along the highway near their home. Photos of the 5 missing children, sketches of what they might look like as they got older, and a standing reward for information. It stayed up for decades. In 1968, 23 years later, Jenny received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph of a young man. To her, it looked unmistakably like her son Louis, grown up. On the back were a few words and numbers the family could never fully make sense of. They hired a private investigator. They followed leads across multiple states. None of it led anywhere conclusive, but none of it was ever proven wrong, either. George died in 1969. Jenny kept that billboard up until she passed away in 1989. 40 years, give or take, of refusing to stop looking. There's a simple version of this story. A house caught fire on a cold night, and 5 children died. Tragic, but explainable. But that's not the version the people who lived through it could accept, because too many small things didn't fit. A door that should have been locked. A ladder that had been moved. A phone line that was cut, not just damaged. No remains from 5 children anywhere in the wreckage. Maybe grief made a family see patterns that weren't really there. Grief does that. It's one of the cruelest things it does. Or maybe, somewhere out there, 5 people grew up never knowing where they truly came from. Either way, a mother kept a light on for 40 years. Not because she had proof, because she couldn't stop.